when there's like guests coming for the first time and they, you explain something about the food, and then there's a chef to ask all these questions on, and they get so excited, and it's only just the beginning of their night. You really can build that relationship up with them as well.
To my own absolute astonishment, we have clocked up more than 500 episodes of Dirty Linen. To celebrate this, to mark the moment, I am spending a couple of weeks at Vue De Monde, a restaurant that has for 23 years been an important place for Melbourne to celebrate its milestones. So here we are. Today's guest is Chef Claire Feij. Claire is Senior Sous Chef at Vue De Monde, and I'm thrilled to welcome her to the podcast. Hey, Claire.
Hi, good afternoon. Very happy to be here as well.
Yeah, I'm thrilled to have you on. Tell us a little bit about yourself and your role at Vue.
Well, I've been at Vue for this week actually it's going to be 5 years. So it's been quite a journey. I started in the pastry section, and from there on, I've worked my way throughout every section of the kitchen, and now being one of the senior sous, overseeing everything that's happening and making sure that everybody is where they should be before the service starts. So quite a lot of things to handle, I think. But yeah. It's an amazing place to work, and it's always changing around. So I guess that's also one of the reasons why I've been there for this amount of time.
I think last time that I was there, it was a lunch service and you were at the pass. So, controlling everything that happened in the kitchen and the dining room, managing everything. What's it like to be there for service where, that people are celebrating their special moments there in front of you?
Oh, it's amazing. It's very different from like actually cooking, of course. Like that's something that I've done for so long, but then to be there and managing everything and making everything flawless is really a great like next step as well, because I feel like everything that I've learned working in kitchens then all comes together, and really also trying to recognize you see people's expressions on their faces while they're eating and what's happening, and maybe we can do this to make it more extra, or noticing like there are guests from Japan, maybe we can get the Japanese waiter to give them a kitchen tour so they actually understand a little bit more of what's going on, since they're visiting and maybe they love to get a better picture of everything that we do. And yeah, I guess it's attention to detail in a different way, because through food, I've always done that, but now it's even more with the guest experience as well. So yeah, it's just making it even bigger, like where you're like, what else is there after the cooking and after creating dishes, and then that aspect comes in as well. And I think it's really beautiful, to be doing that as well. I mean, it's at the same time, it feels like you're in charge of so much, so there's a lot of like internal pressure, like to keep it all together and to make sure nothing goes wrong, of course.
I think that role, standing at the pass, is not particularly well understood by the dining public. Can you just explain to somebody who doesn't quite know what you're doing? I feel like it's a bit like, people look at the conductor, in front of a symphony orchestra and they think, are they just waving their arms around? I mean, what is actually happening when you're standing at the pass with all those dockets?
So you're basically making sure that all the dishes go out at the right moment. So when the guests first arrive, you want to make sure that they're not waiting too long to have something, the first course to enjoy. And then that's when the wine pairing gets discussed, or people just get their first drink, but they already have a small first course to enjoy, and then they have a little moment, and then it's your call to kind of, okay, like let's get going, and to make sure that the menu flows and it doesn't have too many big gaps in between. But also recognizing if guests maybe want to have a little break, or, it's going too fast for them. And then you're communicating with the kitchen, and also communicating with the front of house to make sure that everything arrives at the table at the right time. As you know, in these days as well, we're not just doing wine pairings. We got cocktail pairing, mocktail pairing, tea pairing. So if a table of 4, you know, one person's on a wine pairing, one on a mocktail pairing, one cocktail, one tea, like you also have to make sure that all those drinks come out in time. So there's a lot of communication then with the front of house as well. And then with the kitchen, making sure everything is hot. Of course, dietaries are very important. Allergies, even even important. But of course, yeah, there's like people with severe nut allergies, like being in kitchens as long as I have been as well. Like, you know, those kind of mistakes you really don't want to have happen while you are managing, because you're managing everybody and everything. So, you know, in the end, it's your responsibility, and like people can, you know, like die if they eat nuts when they can't eat nuts. So, you know, to be really on top of that and make sure that everybody else around you also understands all those, yeah, like I guess pressure points, like understands how important it is. And what you said as well, like people celebrating something special and they waited for months to come. So I think that's really important to carry through as well to everybody around you. Like, even though we are repeating ourselves daily, you know, they are only there maybe once in a lifetime. So I think that that is very important as well, to kind of shine that through while you're standing there as well.
Yeah. Is that sort of freshness of someone coming to the restaurant perhaps for the first time, is that part of the energy that flows through the open kitchen at Vue De Monde?
Yeah, I think what's special about Vue De Monde is the fact that the chefs go into the dining room, because often, you know, a chef just stays in the kitchen and he doesn't have any connection. But when there's like guests coming for the first time and they, you know, you explain something about the food, and then there's a chef to ask all these questions on, and they get so excited, and it's only just the beginning of their night, you know, you really can build that relationship up with them as well. And then, you know, you're going back and knowing that that table is so excited for being there, wanting to go back again to explain a dish. And I think it's just, yeah, making that what front of house is part of what they do, but having that as a chef as well makes it really good, because you can have a connection going into the restaurant and then walk back into the kitchen, and it just kind of highlights what you're doing and just, yeah, keeps you excited for throughout the rest of the service.
So direct.
Yeah, you have a real talk with the guest. Like almost every chef goes into the kitchen. When they're new, we give that a little moment, but once they're settled in, you know, we're like, okay, it's time to go. Like, it's time to talk. And then, oh, you know, maybe they're also from the Netherlands, and then it's even more fun. It's even more exciting because you have another connection and another click, and it's, you know, you try and explain things in Dutch, which is actually really hard after 5 years in Australia.
Yeah, what's the Dutch for gum nuts?
Yeah, no. I don't think we, note. Gum note.
So Claire, you've let slip that you're from the Netherlands. Tell us about, you know, food in your childhood and what led you on the path to being a chef.
Well, growing up, I have 2 older brothers, 2 younger sisters, so big family. So it would always be a lot of like big share meals that my mom would often cook. But then my dad would always be kind of the grill master. But both of them really love eating and wine, and it's always been in our family, like just to enjoy and to cook, and big parties with barbecues. And then when I was 12, I didn't really know what to do. And for us, when you go to high school, you can kind of pick your high school. And then there was a school that was doing cooking as well. And I went to like the open day, and I was like, wow, this is amazing, because 50% of the time you don't actually spend in a classroom, but you're either in the kitchen or in the restaurant or in the pastry kitchen. And so it was kind of like a little bit of a prep school, I guess. But I thought it was amazing. I was like, oh, great. Like, I'm going to be, I won't have to put my head down in books, because I think that I was always a bit more not that much studying. And from there, it just went up. And then there was like a cooking college where you could apply to be part of like the master Michelin class, where everybody in the group have to be working in Michelin-star restaurants, and then 2 master chefs have to like write you a recommendation for you to start. And you would you would go to school 1 day a week, and then you would work just full time, just kind of like apprenticeship, I guess, here. But it is connected to like a school still. So you also would have like English and Dutch, but all in 1 day at school. And then the rest of it, you would just be at work and learn everything and have to tick off all the boxes. That kind of, I guess made me also become more ambitious. And when I got into the class, it was just like the next step. Because of course in the high school, you're 12 to 16. So it was a lot more fun. But we did have an actual restaurant as well. So once a week from the 3rd year, you would either be serving in the restaurant or cooking the menu. And then guests from the neighborhood would just come and eat. So we're like 15, 16. But then I did really feel like I love it, and I want to, get better and better and work in better places. And so I just continued doing that. And once I finished school when I was 22, I felt it was time to go overseas. And then I just applied to all the top 10 restaurants in the world, 3 Michelin-star. And the first to reply was 11 Madison Park. And they were like, well, why don't you come for a trial? And if we like you and you like us, then we can get organized on a visa. So I was like, well, you know that I live in Amsterdam, right? For a trial of 1 day. But I was like, well, I've never been to New York. It sounds like an amazing adventure. So I flew there and had the trial. And then, they hired me. So I organized the visa and I was there for 1 year. Which, was also like an insane experience. Amazing team, but also massive kitchen. So many chefs, so much structure. So I learned so much there as well. And then I did feel like, maybe taking a step back and just have a little bit of a more laid back year. And then my friend told me about Melbourne and how relaxed it is, but really good food scene. So, and then I moved here.
Wow, Claire, what a tale. So much in that. I wish we had those high school restaurants here. That sounds so cool that you could just have in your neighbourhood, have teenagers cooking for you, skilling up at the same time. What sort of menus did you put up for people?
It was really classic French. So we would have like the haricot vert wrapped in bacon. We would do the velouté soup. I remember I did that fennel velouté for my exam, but also huzarensalade. It's like very classic Dutch. You learn how to make mayo, but everything is whisked by hand. And then you would learn all the classic Dutch cookies. So also stroopwafels. We would do a lot of things like with fish as well, like the herring, but then pickling it and turning it into different hors d'oeuvres. Like all the basic like stocks, soups, cream soup. They loved bavarois as well. And then in the restaurant, you would serve everything tableside. So you would go out with a little trolley with a ruchot, with a plate holder, and you would serve it to the guests from the table. So we wouldn't plate it in the kitchen. You would serve the food up on the metal warm trays. And then you would, if you are in the front of house that day, you would roll it out, and then you would serve it like you would serve it up with the spoon and the fork. But it was very classic more. But now I know it's still, the school is still there, and they're doing more like Dutch cuisine. So they're trying to work a lot more around Dutch style food, which is very Nordic. But it was a great start, and after that, after I was in the Michelin-star group, years later, we would have also at school 1 year of pastry, so you would really develop your chocolate skills, and then also bread, you would go deep into it, laminating, and then you would do meats, you would make sausages and debone fish and carve meat, pâté en croûte, like all the I guess in a way like all the basics, but then you would always have a challenge, like you would have to make like your own sausage filling, and then end of the class, who has the best sausage, teacher would like grade you, and then you would go to work, and you'd be like, oh, like, shall I do like sausages for staff meal or stuff like that. So I think it was I always believe like it's a very good system of teaching and making people wanting to grow in what they're doing, because you get so much support, and it's a really good way of developing your skills.
Yeah, I think the only concern I have with it is that if to decide at 12 that you want to go down a particular pathway, what if you didn't know, or what if you change your mind? Is there the opportunity to jump ship?
Yeah, so then you could kind of transfer to another school, like another high school that doesn't have any of the cooking. But it would also be for tourism. So people could change in the third year for instance, to focus more on focus more on tourism, or more on the front of house aspect, or people would change school, and then they would just finish their like high school degree, and then from there go to a normal college.
So Claire, let's jump to 11 Madison Park. You gave us a little taste of it, but give us some details. Like, what were some of the things that you saw that you perhaps found really overwhelming or challenging or exciting?
I was there when they became number one, but then they already signed for a renovation. So then the restaurant closed. So for 3 months, they put all of the team out in the Hamptons, and they provided us with like housing. BMW sponsored like 20 cars for the team to drive around with, because there's no public transport in the Hamptons except a few buses. So that was also really amazing, like change around, because of course, you're working like nonstop, and you kind of got a bit more of a break living in the Hamptons, and also get to enjoy summertime, not in humid New York City, but on the ocean, on the coast. So, and I guess also like it was very like cool to get all the celebrities in that all have their beach houses on the Hamptons, and being able to like have a bit of a banter with that as well. And there I did some bar shifts, because their bar team is incredible as well. And because we're doing less hours, I asked to work with their bar team, and just kind of to get a feel of that as well. And they were like so happy to place you around, and to make sure that you're still enjoying, because I had a 1 year visa, so they also know like, oh, your time is a bit limited. Then if you want to extend it, it is a whole other journey, and especially in the States also like very difficult and expensive. Hence why I then decided like, you know what, I'm just gonna go somewhere else in the world. Like I don't want to like lock myself into this now, because I think in the end though, I did at one point you're like, okay, there's so many chefs, like there is together with them, I think you do feel a bit of a family, but it's such a big team. for me, it was too big, like it was almost corporate. And I did want to go somewhere where I would feel a little bit more, just a little bit more, it's just a bit smaller family, maybe. If that's a good way.
Claire, can you take us into the kitchen, take us into 11 Madison Park, leading up to World's 50 Best? I mean, was there a lot of anticipation about, where the restaurant was going to rank? What did it feel like to be there for that time?
Yeah, because it was number 3 at that moment. So there was a lot of like, what's going to happen. And then we all watched the showing together in like a little rented place in New York. And yeah, because Will Guidara and Dani Valent went, of course. And then we're like watching it live stream, and it was just an insane moment. Like it's hard to describe, like, because I was there already for a few months as well. So you do really feel like so much craziness going through. And then how they celebrated was really cool as well, because they're emptying out the restaurant for the renovation. So then we just had a major party, and they just like, trashed the whole place, because they're like, it doesn't matter because we're going to do the renovation anyway. So everybody just go as crazy as you want. So yeah. And then, after that, everybody just sitting on the bus together, like insanely hangover, up to the Hamptons, and then, of course, we did the Netflix show of the reopening. And that was also very, like, then it's like, oh, you became number 1. So after you come back, there's so much more pressure, even because, that happened. So, of course, people come back with the highest expectations in the world because you're the best restaurant in the world. So, that was another, big pressure on top after the Hamptons nice break. And then you come back and it's like, okay, like, let's get back to business and make sure that we actually blow everybody's mind, also with a whole new restaurant and a whole new kitchen, which was also amazing to work in, because, it was already like one of the best kitchens that I ever worked in, like equipment-wise and space-wise. But then after the renovation, with that Italian stove as well, and like all the little gadgets and things, like. But for me, it didn't. I was there for maybe like 6 more weeks, and then my visa ended. And then, yeah. But it was like to be part of the beginning, the new energy. I think that was a real high, like a real, incredible high, and incredible to be part of that new beginning.
Yeah. So what an amazing period to be at a restaurant. What an incredible span of different experiences, even though you were just there for a year. Okay, so you decided to come to old low-key Australia just to chill out. But you ended up working at Vue De Monde. I mean, we don't have the money flowing through Australian restaurants that's possible in a city like New York. But, I mean, how do you compare those two institutions?
Well, I think Vue De Monde is quite similar. Like, even, with the guests that sometimes come around, there is always, some high anticipated Hollywood star that is in town who's going to be like, well, I want to sit somewhere really exclusive and have these master sommeliers, or like this insane wine cellar to really indulge and to really be blown away and go for a once in a lifetime experience. Like, I feel like Vue De Monde has that same feeling to it. It's like, it's not like the Madison Square Garden, but it's at the top of the 55th floor, overlooking over Melbourne, and a view that never gets old. The sunsets, the sunsets together with the moonrise at the same time. One of my favorite moments for looking out the window, but I think it's right up there, you know, like it and even almost more like there's just a bit more looseness, you know, like Australia is so much more laid back to compare to New York. You know, you're in a rat race, everybody's running, everybody's going, and you're running along with them, of course. Like, but I feel like here it's like, and also at Vue De Monde, I mean, you've of course been yourself many times, but I've also came for dinner with my dad, and I felt like, oh, there's so much like chillness, and still you have the same kind of service, you know, like every little detail is looked after, but there is just a little bit less of that, stiffness or tightness around you, which I think a lot of times guests also tell me, like how relaxed they feel and how refreshing that is as well. Because a lot of times, like, you know, in 3 Michelin-star restaurants, you get that kind of almost scared to like move yourself, you know. And I think that's what's so great about Vue De Monde, is that there's so much room to breathe. And it's the same in Australia. I think that the space, you know, you have so much room and space to be.
Yeah, I love that. I mean, why have a restaurant in Australia if it doesn't feel Australian? I think it's great to reflect that spirit. So Claire, you were in Australia and at Vue De Monde during a pretty tricky period for people who came here on working visas. How did you navigate that period where you weren't supported by the Australian government, even though you'd been welcomed to the country to, play an important role in our culinary culture? What was that like?
I guess at the beginning was definitely very scary, because you don't know what's going on, and then you're like, oh, there's not going to be any money and there's no restaurant, so I won't make any money. And of course I was on a visa, but I'm also building up to get my permanent residency, so it's kind of like if you leave, all those build up years are gone. So, you know, some people are like, I'm going home, like it, and it was quite an easy choice. But for me, I felt there was a bit more to lose going home. But then, being here by myself, I'm like, what is the best thing to do? But I did have like my partner and his family close by, so I spent a lot of time with them, and which really helped a lot, I guess, because I wasn't really by myself. And then of Vue De Monde as well, like we started doing the takeaway food, which offered just enough shifts to pay my deducted rent, that I got a deduction from my landlord, which was really, really nice. And to pay like my medical, like my private health insurance and my phone bill. And that was like, I didn't save any money, but I didn't have to spend any money of my savings either. So in the end of it, when things started to become a little bit more like, okay, you know, like it's fine, we're gonna get through this. I did quite enjoy a lot the time to go outside and to like be in nature and to cook at home. That was a lot of fun as well. We did travel Tuesdays. So every Tuesday we would kind of pick a country, and then we would just cook up a feast on that country, and we would play like the music of the country during the dinner. Like, you know, if it's Italian, we just do like, hey, Spotify, like give us an Italian dinner playlist, and we'd make pizzas and, you know, wine, or if it was Spanish, we made sangria, and just like really chill and walk the dog so many kilometers. But it was a bit of a time of like, I guess, relaxing, you know, like not having to work. And I mean, the thing is like, you're used to working so many hours. So it's also like, okay, what am I going to do? Because normally, you know, you're on your feet like that amount of hours a day. And then all of a sudden you don't have that, but your body is still like, go, 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 go. So, yeah.
Yeah, those chefy rhythms.
Yes, exactly. But I feel like it was, it was a very strange time, and I'm very happy that I see the city now like so back to where it was, and it's busy, and all the working holiday people are coming back, and all the international guests as well. Like, but yeah, at one point I feel like, once things settled down a bit, it also felt like, oh, I can breathe a little bit more. And then I got to apply for my permanent residency, which then also got approved quite fast. So yeah, then the table really turned, and it made me really feel part of Australia, and it's something that, I really did feel like I wanted to be there, like to be part of it. I feel like it's really like grown on me so much, and I really found like my home here.
Awesome. Well, yes, so exciting that you got your permanent residency. It's, really, really lucky for Australia that you stuck it out. So that's excellent. Claire, so wonderful to chat to you today. Really great to get a bit more of the backstory and learn about, the skills and experiences that you're able to bring to Vue De Monde. Thank you so much for sharing with us today.
Yeah, thank you. Very glad to talk to you and to share a bit of me with the rest of Australia.
This is Dirty Linen, and I'm Dani Valent. We air the issues that the hospitality industry finds hard to talk about, hearing from different people with unique perspectives. We want to hear from you as well. If you have something that needs to be said about a topic, get in touch so we can include your perspective. Contact us at dirtylinen@deepintheweeds.com.au or hit us up on Insta at Dirty Linen Podcast. We can't wait to hear from you.
This